Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my podcast. No
Hello.
cap, just raw. I never get tired of saying it. And as we are embarking on a new month, we are bringing back the series of Valued Girl. Whoop, whoop.
Yes. Woohoo.
And we have our a very valuable guest once again with us, uh, Keetrelia. What's up, girl?
Thank you. Thank you. Just out here womaning.
I love it. I love it. Um, we have quite a few things to talk about today, girl. So, we've been talking about how this series is so impactful. It is truly one of those things that, we see all kinds of panels, where they're talking about things that women have to deal with and what we have to go through in this world, and how because we are women, we don't have the same opportunities that maybe men have. We don't get the same pay rate as men do. And then there's the other issue of, equality and women of color, and she's a white woman, and white privilege and all these things. We're not talking about all that,
So
but I'm
many
bringing.
facets of womanhood here. So many.
So I bring all that up to say, like, so who are two women, maybe in your lifetime or personally, that or maybe someone you've seen that inspired you, that inspired you on your journey from becoming a girl to becoming a woman and whatnot.
Mm. So, two women from two completely different centuries, and they inspire me for this reason. You have to know that I'm a woman that believes in pioneering and change and being transcendental and breaking barriers. And these two women, for me, they've done just that. So, my first inspiration, she was a big inspiration to me in college because once I saw her work, I felt so compelled and like I understood the message of it. She's the mother of abstract art, the first person in history to be recognized for creating abstract art. She was around in the 19th century. Her name is Hilma af Klint. And I call her the mother of abstract art. I'm not sure that everyone else calls her that, but she was the first person to create that kind of art form. And her artwork was based on these esoteric principles. So if you know a bit about esotericism, you know that there are different symbols that represent creation. Like to me, I liken esotericism to an understanding of the abstract nature of God and our existence. And she made these beautiful, beautiful paintings that are filled with symbolism. She has this pyramid that just dissects different parts of life, and it just it blows my mind and it speaks to my soul. When I think about things that are outside of what we can understand in our 3D world, I think about something that supersedes our existence. We would not know what it looks like because we only have our 3D eyes. But this lady captured some of these symbols in an amazing way. She was the first woman to do it. We were coming out of a time in art history where you have these great masters, the Dutch masters, the Renaissance art, and everything of that nature, where they're doing all this amazing anatomical work. And here she comes, a woman, just breaking it all down into circles and seeds and pyramids and things of that nature. That was something that was so bold. And her process was very different from any other artist. Everyone was approaching art in a very technical way. She approached it in a spiritual way. She said, you know what? My femininity is completely different from this logical, technical approach. I'm going to paint with my soul. And Hilma af Klint did that. She is a Swedish artist, and I love her work. Not many people will get it maybe when they see it, but like, I just love her pieces. And she was a little bit kooky. I love that. I'm so about mysticism and being different. And it said that she would have these seances before. If you know me, I like intuitive guidance and I like divination. I love it. I feel like when it's done by the right person and if it has the right intentions, it can actually bring forth useful information. And she would host seances. I don't know if her seances would be of that nature, but it was a form of entertainment that was different, completely different from what art was going towards. And people like, oh, people like Vasily Kandinsky who come after her, they of course had some inspiration or felt comfortable. And these are men, Vasily Kandinsky and Mondrian. These are men who create abstract work and were known, but she was the
Mhm.
first one to do it. So that's a main lady for me. In my artwork, I aspire to incorporate spirituality. And she, when I started work, she just gave me the gusto to do that. If you can do that in the 18th century, I'm sorry, the 19th century, you can do that now. Now,
Wow.
this woman, next woman, completely different century. She is a 19th, I get mixed up with the century sometimes. Actually, she's 21st century. She created the portrait of Michelle Obama that is in the White House. Once again,
Mm.
another artist who has completely shifted the view from traditional to something new. If you've seen the portrait of Michelle Obama, you will know that it is strikingly different from any other portrait that is done of any other lady in the White House and first Black first lady in the White House. And I think this lady, Amy Cheryl, she painted this portrait and she did not change her style just to fit what was going on in the White House. That is transcendental. She said, you know what? This is different, but I'm going to keep going with it. And it worked out beautifully. You got to see that. It's a painting of Michelle Obama by Amy Cheryl. Absolutely gorgeous. I love it. It's different, it's unique, and it speaks volumes. I think that that was something that created a historical impact. She's also a Black artist. So she represents a minority, a Black
Mm.
female artist in the
Yes.
White House painting the first Black First Lady. Oh,
Wonderful. And art, you
change.
know, artist to artist, she's an artist for those of you who are listening. And when we did the introductions last month, I was telling you guys how she's a phenomenal artist. And so everything she's talking about is artist jargon. And for those of you who are listening, and it's to me, from artist to artist, it's incredible to me what I'm listening because I love um, art as well. I'm an artist as well, and things of that nature. But on my end of the spectrum, for women who have inspired me in my journey as a woman, I would say the first person for me would be my mom. She's been one of my biggest inspiration. She's really up there, up top. And my mother is just an incredible human being. She was very spiritual. She would do amazing things. She was like a superhero to me. Like she would look at pictures in the magazine and literally tell me about that person just looking through their eyes. I was like, how did you do that? Like she would, and the crazy thing is, my mother didn't know like all the celebrities and things like that, so she would say things about them and I knew the celebrity, so she would say things about them and I was like, wow, like that's true, like how did you know that? And she's like, she had this thing she would do and she could read people like a book. And and when I wasn't feeling well, she always gave me the best advice. She would pray for me. She always steered me in the right direction. But more importantly, I would say my mom's my biggest inspiration because she never, she always gave me the freedom to be who I am. Allow me to make the choices that I felt that were right for me, never forcing me. You know how parents are, they want you to, well, you're going to do it this way and it's got to be done that way. And my mom always gave me the liberty to be me and constantly reminding me that that's my superpower, being myself, because if I'm not me, who's going to be me? And it's a gift, it's a treasure to be yourself truly and wholeheartedly. It's definitely tough in this world. The world will beat you down for being yourself a lot of times. So I kudos to my mom, love her so much. Love you, mom, always and forever. Um, and I would say the second woman. that is very inspirational to me. I don't think a lot of people are familiar with her, but she is someone. Her name is Deborah, and for those who don't know Deborah, Deborah was a woman. If you read about her life in the book of Judges in the Bible, um, she uh, she actually led an army into war. And the man that was actually supposed to lead this army was too afraid to do it. And she said, "Okay, you're afraid to do this. Guess what? I'm going to go with you. But if we win, I'm taking this victory. A woman is going to take this victory."
Yes, ma'am.
And lo and behold, she led this army. They won, of course, because they had God on their side. And they were skilled. They weren't very skilled. I don't want to say that, but check out the story for yourself. I'll get the exact passage. It's very, really interesting. This is not just a story. This is real. This is true. I know people look at the Bible, they're like, it's just a character from the Bible. No, these are things, events that actually happen. And so she she took the victory because this man was too afraid to lead this army. He was afraid. If you read, so it's in the book of Judges, Judges chapter 4. And it's just really incredible. And every time I read that passage, I'm like, wow, like she was a really strong woman. And I look at myself, I'm like, I'm a strong woman. And I definitely, she inspired me or inspires me continuously in life when I'm, dealing with situations to affirm and walk in that strength. And
Mm.
speaking of affirming your strength, can you tell us about a situation that you've gone through in your life that you had to overcome, and how did you overcome this situation, specifically as a woman?
Hmm. So, one thing that I've worked on throughout my life, and I knew that was of importance, was mental health. So, I was always told as a kid, you're too sensitive, throw thicker skin, don't be vulnerable. Or if someone says something to you, say it back. As you've said before, when you're being yourself, sometimes the world wants to push you away from that, or the world just comes at you a different way, or you go through experiences that makes you feel like, maybe I'm less valuable, or maybe I should change myself to fit in or fit some certain standard. So for me, something that I've overcome is my inner critic. There's been times in my life where I've made choices and I kind of put it up against what I think would be more acceptable based on what was told to me. So I had to like break out of these ideas that I have to be somebody else in
Mm,
order to be happy and be successful or have the things. So, and that came from a culmination of experiences. There's not one experience that I can pinpoint that said, or one experience where I was like, oh, I have to overcome this. It was a culmination of everything, of being told that I would have it harder because I'm a minority Black woman, I'm a marginalized population. Most people that go to college don't finish. All these other things that felt like they were against me, I had to build that courage to defeat those and to be where I am right now in a mental space. That's a good mental space, a healthy mental space, and to have the practices and
mm,
the knowledge that I have now, that is an achievement to me. Um, so I've gone through depression with no therapy, no way to have therapy. So I've kind of like developed my own self therapy. Thank God for Google. Thank God for the technology that we have now. I've battled depression when I was 15 years old. My grandmother passed away, and that took a major hit on me. Like, I was just not the same from that day on. And I call that time the dark night of the soul, my spiritual awakening, where and all the lessons that she imparted upon me when I was a kid, those started to flow back to me. And unfortunately, well, can I say unfortunately, but not really unfortunately, during that time, I was like making choices that were based on me being depressed, based on
right.
me wanting to run away from my feelings, or not knowing
Mhm.
how to handle it because I did not have a guidance that told me that it is okay to break down. I had guidance that told me to just
Mhm.
be stronger, you can't let it break you. Although it was encouraging, I had to come to terms with my own nature and realize I'm a sensitive person. I like to cry. I like to be emotional. I want the sweet support. I don't want to be tougher for the world. And now I own that. I own that about myself. That experience helped me to own that I am of a sensitive nature, a softer nature. Maybe I cry. Maybe I overreact. This idea of overreacting. Maybe I do have feelings that are not socially acceptable sometimes, but I'm not going to limit myself and tell
Mhm.
myself it's bad to have these feelings. It's a part of being mentally healthy to be able to express all of your emotions and be honest with yourself. So overcoming depression and mental health struggles and becoming one with my true nature, that is a huge accomplishment for me. And I'm happy with where I'm at now. Now I can just be honest about how I feel and receive the healing and the support that I actually need instead of putting up this force field, this protective shield.
Mhm.
Now I can say, I'm not feeling well, and it's okay that I'm not feeling well. And I tell my friends or my loved one, I'm not feeling well, and they understand that. I don't have to put on this fake act or this mask that's like, oh, I'm good, I'm so good. I'm not. So, yeah, I encourage you if you're ever going through
Yeah.
any mental
And that
struggle.
that is commendable.
Sorry. Yeah, thank you. I
No,
was
you're
going to say
good.
that there are
I think
so
our
many
connection is
free
kind of shaky.
resources. Oh, we might have like a little bit of disconnection there. But there's so many healthy resources online that are free. You can talk to therapists in a second now. So if you're ever struggling with depression, any thoughts of, ending your own life, things of that nature, please seek out help. There are free resources because if you seek out that help, you'll realize that it is okay to have these feelings and that there's still more for life to offer you.
Yes, amen. It's again commendable what you've been through. And I think that, you know, the most commendable part of it is not even just overcoming it, but it's being able to share it with others. And I think that, like you said, vulnerability is a huge, huge deal. I used to tell people that vulnerability is my superpower. And I don't know why I would say that, but I would say that because um, I know that that is something that's difficult for a lot of us to be is vulnerable because when you're vulnerable it's like showing your true self, and that is not an easy thing to do. um and speaking of vulnerable, I would say for me something that I went through in life and then had to overcome was I had seasons of wanting to unalive myself many of times. And I just felt like I had no purpose in life. And it's so funny how, it's there really isn't when you start talking it through it, talking about what you're feeling, you realize that a lot of these things we feel are just so deceptive. And I had to really dive deep in, reading scripture, praying, and uh-oh, we're back. Okay, we're back. I had to dive deep into scripture, praying, seeking God, and really trying to find myself. And so the big issue behind me not wanting to unalive myself because I felt I had no purpose was because I didn't know who I was. I didn't have an identity. So um I needed to know for me who I was. It was me knowing for Princess who she was, not because of what my mother told me, not because of what people told me, but because of what I knew. And so the battle was really up here. It was really like you said, it's the same spectrum. It was getting my mind in the right place. And sometimes the issues we deal with are really, really simple. Um, and talking about it simplifies it even more, a whole lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, with therapy, I am so much for it. I actually overcame my unalive issues because I went to counseling. And for those of you who don't know, I actually went to Ohio for 5 to 6 months. And all I did was up there, I call it a sabbatical because that's what it was, because all I was doing up there was healing. I remember this day vividly. I've shared this, I've testified about this before on this podcast, that I just woke up one day and the Holy Spirit was like, pack your stuff and drive all the way to Ohio. There's more to the story, but it was that spontaneous. And from the moment I was there up until the end of those 5, 6 months, all I did was go to counseling, pray, spend time alone. I journaled, and God was just really showing me me. He's like, this is it. You know what I'm saying? And being alone, it was very it was interesting. It was an interesting time. So for anyone out there, like you were saying, if you're dealing with thoughts of wanting to unalive yourself, I'm here to tell you that it's not worth it. It is not going to solve any of your issues because it's not the root of your issue. You need to go to the root. And I had to go to the root. And the root was I didn't know who I was. I was facing a lot of rejection. I was rejected everywhere I went. Couldn't find acceptance, wanted people to accept me, couldn't even accept myself, and wanted others to accept me. That's funny. And so once I got to the place of, what, this is me. And God was like, this is who you are. You are fearfully, you're wonderfully made. And I was like, I am. I'm awesome. I'm a great person. And
Yes.
you know what? I'm prepared to face life. So it was that simple. And I didn't see it like that. It was just a mountain in my mind. But again, like you said, I am all for therapy. I'm for counseling, whatever you want to do and whatever you want to call it, whatever works for you, but do something. Don't sit around and feel sorry for yourself.
And that is why I'm so happy to be a woman in the modern times that we're in right now, because we have that ability to access resources now. I mean, it's being normalized, and I'm so happy, even in the Black community or any other minority group, Black or brown, however you want to put it, we have been making strides at normalizing mental health and establishing healthy practices. And that is a huge shift that I've seen in such a short time. I mean, when I started college in um, 2015, 2016. It was summer of 2015. Mental health was not talked about. It was taboo. And so you were just left to deal with it on your own. But nowadays, it's just, I see it everywhere. And I'm like, I literally wrote my entry essay to college about mental health
Mhm.
and having all of these feelings. And now I'm seeing the shifts, and I'm just so happy. That is something that not only affects the women, it affects everybody, and it's just beautiful to see
Yes.
this shift. We need to understand who we are first as a human, first as our identity, in order to serve out a greater purpose and be of benefit to society. And we have to realize that we are meant to
Mhm.
benefit society in our own individual way. It's not going to be like, oh, maybe I should be a psychiatrist because I care about mental health. Maybe my art will inspire somebody to feel happier. It will speak to somebody in so many different ways. We are literally multidimensional beings, and you might see something like you got a divine message to seek out counseling and seek out help. Someone might see a painting and say, this is my divine message to better my life or to encourage happiness
Mhm.
within. So I think having representation as a woman, as
Mm.
a
Mhm.
vulnerable, authentic being is important. We have to see people being themselves and being human. And as a woman, we should have that expression and have that representation. I mean, we've been, as far as this whole shift in power in the way that we're represented, I think this is improving in these modern times, of course. In history, we didn't have as much representation or as much understanding for us as the human woman as a human woman, people would probably say, oh, well, if she's having these intuitive spells, there's a time in history where that would be, oh, you're a witch, or you're crazy, or, you're just mad. And nowadays, people are taking our guidance, our intuitive nature, and taking it serious as they see that certain things are coinciding with what the female population or what women are feeling. And I'm starting to realize that that is that is necessary in this world with the functionings of how this world works. It's important in politics that we have women representing us. And right now we're going through a time where we're seeing a majority of women being represented in, well, not a majority, but we're seeing
I
more
just
women
lost
in
connection.
our Congress. We're seeing more women in powerful positions. And this is only going to encourage more equality along the line. If something as simple as mental health awareness is shifting so quickly, we're having female representation in politics, we're going to see some great changes. And I say that, but there are some changes that I'm kind of questioning, like the fact that they've kind of overturned abortion. I'm pro-choice. I think I don't know everything about everyone. I don't know everything about everyone's situation. So how can I make one choice for everybody, right? So I'm pro-choice. I don't agree with overturning abortion, but I do agree with or I would like to see that we have abortions for specific situations, or we have more preparation for family development. So, and I'm saying family development in a vague term, but I do believe mental health and family development should be taught within the schools, so that even if someone was to get pregnant, they would have a solid foundation of knowledge and a solid process with raising children and becoming a parent, so that if it were to happen and if they were to have a relationship, healthy relationship, hopefully, they would know what to do and they wouldn't need abortion as a choice. But it all comes with having value within yourself. Certain things we can't control, but other things we can. I mean, if there are women who are dealing with SA, which is, you know, sexual assault, like that's something different. I think those women should have a
Right.
choice. But I feel like we should
Right.
instill value within the early childhood years through more mental health awareness in elementary schools. We should have courses for family development in middle school, high school, um, and that would help people to make better reproductive choices, so that we wouldn't have to have these strict abortion laws and things of that nature, especially as a woman. But if a woman goes through something where you know, they didn't have a choice or it wasn't consensual, I think they should have the right to, terminate something that won't be beneficial to them or, to the child. So hopefully in the next couple of years, we'll see better options when it comes to that situation, when it comes to abortions and things of that nature, because that is a really reproductive rights is important. It's important for men and women. It's important for the future, and we should take a more intuitive, compassionate approach rather than a logical, strict approach to that. What do you think?
And I, I don't know when it comes to, certain situations and things like that. I just try to be human about everything because I know that we're not always going to agree with everything. And I think that when it comes to, abortion and pro choice, pro life, and things like that, I just try to take the human perspective on it. And everything you said is the human perspective. It's okay. What if that were you? And, you were, in a situation where you didn't choose that for yourself, but someone, did something to you that, took your choice away. And now you're like, I don't want a child for someone that took my choice away, if you know what I mean. And And it's one of those things where I honestly don't like to talk about it because I'm like, it's not, you really don't know how this person feels unless you've been through it. You know what I'm saying? Um
And that's why I feel like it shouldn't
I'm
be
all for the
a
life of the
one
child
solution for everybody.
because, I wouldn't want to see, but again, it's easier said than done when you're not in the situation. You're not the one that has to, carry that child for that. I'm definitely for the part of where this tiny, unaware human being can have an opportunity. And I think I'll leave it at that. There's a lot more I could say, but I know this is not what we're talking about. But this is, of course, a situation that a lot of women face and have to deal with. And it's very serious. And as a woman myself, I can only imagine the pain that this person, this woman has to go through. I think one interesting thing I'll share because I was looking into as an issue that women, specifically women of color, face is just being in the classroom and, you know, how we're dealt with and how we're viewed. And sometimes you have a teacher that may be prejudiced or biased. I went through that a lot, especially when I went to college. When I started college, I had professors that didn't give me good grades because of either the way I dressed or the color of my skin or because I wasn't kissing their bum like all the
Hmm.
other students. And I was singled out as the one that was
Okay. Well, it looks like Miss Princess's connection has just cut out for a moment. I think she was talking about experiences in education and having people being prejudiced. That is a topic that I tend to ignore that topic. And she's back. She is back. So I can't really hear you right
I
now,
don't
but
know.
oh, there you are. I hear you. So yeah, prejudice and
You can hear me?
I don't want to say I ignore that topic, but I kind of just try not to let that take me out of, feeling like I'm here for myself. That's one of those things I just kind of like try not to give too much power to. I was continuing along because we kind of lost connection. So I was just saying prejudice in education or prejudice within
Yeah,
coming
no,
from, professional spaces. I
I'm
try not to let that get to me.
still losing connection. It's like, um, but yeah,
So you feel like you've experienced that based on how you dress and just how did you know?
oh my gosh. Okay, so it was always obvious. I was like, and I'm the kind of person I don't really pay attention to things like that. I don't I was raised until I started going to college, that whole um just being aware of it. I've heard people talk about it, I've seen it in movies, but I didn't experience it firsthand. Like, this is real. Like, people actually um experience this, and no one's trying to hide it. And so I had teachers that were, would single me out, and I was like, this is so obvious that even other people can see it, but no one is going to say anything because, who wants to, who wants to bring things like that amongst, teachers and students. I remember being in a computer class with one of my professors, and in the class, the only girl in the class who was black, or brown, whatever you want to call it, and all the other girls and all the other or Hispanic or Caucasians, and I can just remember he wouldn't help me. He would just yell at me. And the one of the girls would come to me and say, "Oh, he's just stressed out." But when they would ask for help, he was prepared. He was helping them get the work done. And I was failing the class, and I
Yeah,
kept
that
saying,
was very
"Can
much
you help me,
obvious.
please? I don't understand." He said, "I explained it to you several times already," and things like that. And that really hurt. And I was just like, am I seeing what I'm seeing, or is this all
You were. You were seeing what you're seeing, trusting your intuition in that. That is
some
such
things that
a
we will
deep
deal with in
topic.
life?
That is such a deep topic. I noticed our connection is kind of like a little bit dodgy, and I would love for us to get into this topic even
I don't know
more,
what's
but
going on with the
I would
connection
love for it
today.
to be like super clear
Are
so
you still
you can
there?
get the full message of it. I feel like we should definitely get into this topic for the next one. So we can, because I can go into this as well. Although I like to not allow prejudice and racism to affect me, there are some signs that you have to look out for. There are some microaggressions that you should look out for, and we should know how to handle that as well. Even
Absolutely.
sexism as well. If we have
Absolutely.
people who
This is
see us
a lot.
differently because we are women, that's something that we got to get into. We got to talk about this in the full depth because it's a whole other episode for sure. It's a whole other episode. I'm loving where we're going so far. It is Women's Month, y'all. It's
Oh my
Women's
gosh.
Month. It's time to celebrate the feminine. Let's talk about it, okay? Let's talk about it. Had so much fun on this episode for sure. So I think Miss Princess's connection has gone out, but this was a great episode, at least in my opinion, y'all. We got into some real topics here, and we didn't hold back. This is no cap, just raw. And that's how it's going to be. And that's what it is. Hopefully, we can see y'all next time.
Okay, so I don't know what happened. We've been losing connection. But we're gonna definitely wrap it up, guys. Um, Thank you so much to everyone that tuned in. This conversation is to be continued. We will be back with more. Okay, and we're back. I don't know what happened, but we are gonna pick up next week. With this topic, I want to say thank you again to Key for with your wisdom and expertise. We definitely touch on so many deep topics, and we have so many more coming forward your way. Thank you to everyone who tuned in, and we'll see you guys next week. I don't know if you heard anything I said.
I did. I heard what you said, but I was also, it had lost connection. So I had tried to like wrap it up too. So I don't know when you're editing this, if you want to like cut out some part